asked me to bring my personality, and she came.
Lista, comadre? Hello.
Welcome.
To episode number, ¿Quién sabe qué? The episode with the sisters.
We're still in the season with guests.
Yes, just in case anybody was wondering. Like I said, we have sisters today, not mine. Karen's, as you could probably tell, because they all kind of look alike.
Copy-paste.
Y si no, ahorita la risa is the one that you're going to figure it out, que sí.
Yeah. We've been wanting to do a siblings edition. However, the one sibling from the other side decided he can't be on camera. So
What? Why?
Shout
No
out
quiere.
to little brother, aka little
because
one,
he's
aka
ugly.
Dimas.
Dimas, aka Cho- huh?
It's because he's ugly.
Yeah, he's like, the internet's going to come for me.
The internet would.
So this is Kaylee, this is the youngest, and then we have Kiara,
Who's the middle
the
child?
best.
the middle child.
The bestest.
Very middle child vibes. And Karen, obviously the oldest, and we're kind of gonna
The mother.
talk about nature versus nurture, being una tía now to the first baby girl in your guys' family, and then just a couple other questions, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the reigning topic is going to be our personalities, our temperament, our character, and how it's influenced by nurture and the environment around us, most specifically like our upbringing, our parents. But then what are the things that are nature that when you think back to things that you've done or how you act and your personality that you're like, I don't like this, just who I am.
I think I never understood it with the three of you guys because you are so different, las tres, until I saw your mom. When I saw your mom, it like connected all of the dots for me. Like,
Why?
No sé por qué. Like something about seeing your mom is like, you guys are all like an extension of her personality, I guess.
And she has multiple
And
personality
she has
disorder.
bipolar disorder. And so I was like, oh, okay.
It's not actually true, but
You're
goodness.
one, you're two.
Where's 3 to 6? No, but you guys are a lot like her, but then also so different. So no sé,
Yeah.
como que she just was like the missing puzzle. And then obviously you guys all look alike too. So seeing your mom, like, yeah.
Like
todas se
I
parecen.
see it with us, but like Kaylee,
Is she the top row?
I don't know. Like if I didn't see her come out of my mom, I wouldn't believe it. Just kidding.
Well, that's actually a good place to start because you guys got to be older when she was born.
Yeah.
So tell us the dynamic here.
Yeah, so that's what I part of what I was gonna say. I've always wondered how people in the same household with the same parents grow up to be so different. Obviously, you've got different interests and whatnot, but I think also just in like values and things like that I'm always like, how does someone who grew up in the same scenario like take such a different approach to things? But the older I get and the more I see in our experience, as much as we both had the same physical parents, we all three of us had a very different upbringing.
Yeah, but especially us with the Kaylee. I just told her the other day, like, she had a different childhood than us because I'm 11 years older than Kaylee and they're 15 years apart.
And I'm 15. I was a freshman in high school and Kiara was in middle school. Yeah.
Fifth grade, actually.
Yeah, actually, yeah, fifth grade.
Fifth grade because she was born.
Yeah.
Kaylee was born when I did an end of year trip to Washington, D.C. in fifth grade.
I found out when I was on a bus to a volleyball game. My mom called and I don't know, I think she was just so in shock.
Excited?
No,
Or just
my
like,
mom was shook. She did not plan to have any more children. So even more of a backstory. Growing up and as she got married and whatnot, my mom used to dream of having 6 children, 4 to 6 children, so that she could be in a dining table of 6 or 8 and her husband could sit down and have their kids. Like
so cute.
that was her family dream. Like sentarte así en la mesa and every seat is filled up.
Stressful.
Well,
I like
it's 'cause
it.
back in the
Depends.
day, yeah. Okay.
But her dream was like, you know, if I have a table, I sit down and like my whole family fills up this dining table and we're having like family time.
Yeah.
Like that was her perfect picture family. And then she had me, and she was like, great, on to the next one, baby number 2. And then she had Kiara, and she was like,
never
cut
again.
it out. Which I cannot handle anymore.
I think is a good story to come back to about personalities and like nature versus nurture, because my mom has always, and that's a tangent, but my mom has always said that when you were born, it's like she didn't have a kid. And that really reflects a lot of your personality from when you were born. And then she always says when I was born, it was like she had 3 kids, and it's like I just in remember, that alone.
Yeah, I actually remember her saying like, "Ay, es que Kiara y no, like no se callaba y lloraba mucho y por todo se peleaba."
Like que no se pone, like que no se pone en paz more than anything. I don't think like I was a crybaby or like a peleonera,
it was just like active all the time. She was used to. She would sit me down and be like, "Play with your toys," and she would go cook, and I was still there. And with Kiara, it was like, "Oh my God," I sat her down to play with her toys, and she's up there on that bookshelf.
So plot twist.
So after Kiara, she was like, 2 kids, I'm done. No more kids.
Digo, plot twist, the ones with actually multiple personality disorders is Kiara.
Oh no, yeah, that's why I made the joke. I was projecting.
So going back to it, in terms of like our different upbringings, hers is that by far the most different one, because she's got sisters that are 11 and 15 years older than her. I took care of her. My mom had her in May, and she went back to work like within the month.
She was later.
Yeah, like within the month, and I was on summer break. So I would stay home with Kaylee all day. Like during summer break, my mom used to work from like 9:30 to like 4 p.m. Like basically a whole school day.
Yeah.
And I was her primary caretaker at 15.
Period.
During the summer. I literally, everyone thought I was a teen mom. Whenever we would go out with Kaylee, and I was like pushing her stroller, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're a baby." And I'm like, "No, actually, it's my little sister."
I'm actually a really good student. Well, because you guys got your parents also at a very different time in their lives, right?
Yes.
So like, it's like the 20-year-old mom versus the 30-year-old mom versus the 40-year-old mom. And we all know that as they get older, they just give less fucks. Like, no les importa nada. So obviously, a ti no te tocó lo que Karen tuvo que vivir, and vice versa, or you, I'm sure. And they're just so different now.
I think, well, going back to a little back, it was like, for me, I saw, especially, I think a lot with how I am today is seeing and growing up with my mom while she was in menopause and I was going through teen years.
Oh, yeah.
Because we clashed
You're
like
still
crazy.
A teen.
Okay.
Newsflash.
Yeah, no, but like the crazy,
but
crazy.
when my mom first,
Preteen and like straight menopause, and we both were just clashing every day. No nos queríamos ver.
So menopause is a big environmental influence. Environment influence.
Nurture,
Yeah. She has a very different relationship with my parents than we do. But then she also has these extended relationships that we didn't have, of like much older sisters. Like we had each other, but we're 4 years apart, 4.5 years apart. It's very different from like, now we know what it's like to like what it means to do well in high school and like find a college that is going to be a good option for you. Like things like that we talk to her about. We're not always like, oh my God, you have to be perfect and do all this. But when we see the opportunity of like, I wish someone would have helped me with that skill, we're like quick to respond to it. And we never had that.
And even there, you can see the differences of how we do that, because Karen has always had to be in more of a parent role with Kaylee. She disciplines her like a mother would, and I don't do that. And I have very real conversations with her of like sister to sister, and I'm more like inappropriate, and I joke with her, and like I laugh with her, and I do that kind of stuff, because I was never like, while Karen was 15 taking care of her, I was still like a kid myself. And
you didn't have to really worry about it.
I didn't worry about it because Karen took that on and worried about it for us.
Yeah, I for sure see that dynamic where you are definitely, that's just your personality también, but like the kind of more of like a caretaker. But with her, you definitely like mom her a lot more than like, hey sis, what's up? And I'm really curious to see if that's gonna change when you get older.
But I did want to go back, and that's, I don't know, to your question about personalities and nature versus nurture and family. I think one again, between me and Karen, I can see it a lot because we're vastly different in my perspective. Even just the way my mom described us being born was like, Karen's quiet and she's loud AF. And from there, like growing up alongside Karen, to me, it was very clear we have the same parents, but they treat us based on our personalities, because like discipline is a big topic of like, Karen, you just had to tell her, sit over there and don't do that. And then she didn't do it. They would sit me down and say, don't do that. And then I'll go and I'll do it. And they're like, why did you do that? And I'm like,
why not?
Why not? Yeah, like, why am I not allowed to do that? And then they hit me. And then I'm like, well, let me do it again. And it's like, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But that's who I am. And now having a lot of conversations with my mom, I understand that she had to change her parenting style between even just us two, because she understood that she had two very different
because what worked for you is not gonna work for
and
you.
it didn't. And so in that way,
I mean, that's like adapting to nurturing.
They respected the nature of it, I guess.
Yeah. And my mom has always been very aware of that. My mom always says, like, you love all your children, you're the same.
Lies.
But you treat them differently because they're different people. It's the same thing with you, with anyone, right? Like your parents' relationships, your friends' relationships, like you act according to who that person is and what that person needs. And she's always been very clear of that. But then again, it's like that and everything else that's happening. Right. Right? Like, it's like personality, but also like they learned a lot with me. And then they learned a lot with Kiara. And so then now they're willing to try different things with Kaylee that they didn't do with us. Like
nothing. Yeah. They forgot everything.
It was 11 years. Yeah. She said, scratch that.
No, es que la verdad, 11 years is I mean, think about it. 11 years is like a long time to just remember all of these little...
Yeah.
But I was going to say what you said about like us being the oldest daughters and stuff, and them, like your parents, our parents, going through their certain peaks and valleys of life, right? So like our parents, when they first had us, they were fresh off the boat. You know what I mean? Like immigrants, they were working their fucking asses off, trying to get here, trying to figure it out. And then we're kind of just like tagging along with that, versus 20 years later or 11 years later, they're having a baby. They're like settled. They already have the family. They already have the jobs. Like that must be also very different for them to raise this versus that. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. That's the environment.
And that's why I feel like that's where the first daughter syndrome, whatever, comes from either way. It's like we were there with them to like build that and kind of took on that stuff for ourselves, versus you guys where you kind of got to, you know, not chill a little more, but like it wasn't so like such a heavy burden to carry.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think in reality, it's undeniable to say that everything in the environment influences who you are. Your parents, your siblings, your birth order, like whether we were in Mexico, we're here, we're close to family, we're not close. Literally everything influences who you are. So back to like the other point of like nature, I think it'd be interesting to just kind of see like what about you do you think, damn, like why am I like this? Whether you love it or you hate it, but like things that you feel like this is just who I am. This was not my parents put this seed on me. Like it's just who I am.
Like you're like those things that you literally doesn't come from. I don't know.
I can say like my biggest one that I'm always like, it's just so like I'm such a rule follower and I have like a huge moral compass that as much as like I grew up in which also was different. I was born in California and they took me to Mexico, and I grew up in Mexico the first years of my life. And we grew up around
8 years.
Yeah. Around our family down there, who was very Christian, because their life was completely changed when both sides of my family, my dad's dad and my mom's mom, completely changed the trajectory of their life when they like decided to become Christian. And so that was a huge influence on their life. Like we were at church every single Sunday religiously. Like it would, like there's no reason you're not at church. And we are at least one other day of the week at church. And everything we do is like our family, who were all Christian, and people from the church. And so like as much as I feel like definitely that has an influence on, like that was such a big part of my life growing up. But even beyond that, even till this day, even things that like I'll argue with my parents about things that to me are just like rules are rules, or like morals are morals, like things that I'm just like white. As much as they're my parents, like we even disagree, and I'm like, this doesn't come from my parents. It's just like an internal thing that I feel that like since I was a little kid, I had this super high like understanding of that. And I think that that was part of my personality of like, I was told I'm not supposed to do this, so I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And it to me, like I quickly saw the why, like why I'm not supposed to do that. And even whether I agreed or not, I was like, I'm not supposed to do it.
This is so funny because when you asked the question, my thought was the complete opposite. And I was like, something I know that's my personality.
Es que me vale madre.
For sure.
Me vale madre todo.
That who I am is like
a rule breaker.
Rebellious. Like rebellious. And I think at some point in my life, especially as a teenager, I was a rebel without a cause. And that was like a whole thing. But from a kid, it's like this chaotic rebellion inside of me. But so then when the rebel without a cause thing was happening as a teenager, it was like, I don't know why. And I'm frustrated and I'm mad and I'm doing everything just to spite everyone. Just because you said no, I'm going to go and I'm going to do it.
Like lashing out.
And lashing out about it. And as I grew up and started to understand myself and did more of like a self-discovery and acceptance of like, this is who I am. I don't do it to spite people. It's just my person is to question things and to not be okay with the norms, and to not like, you can't just tell me a rule and you can't tell me a rule and expect me to follow it. I need to know why.
Just because, yeah.
And even if I know the why, I need to find that why for myself. And I was in the same I was 4 when we came to the US, and so that was like a big transition I had to take on. And also I was born in Mexico, so then I came here being undocumented, and that was like another environmental factor that definitely played into the person I grew up to be, because that was a big part of my personality, where like someone's telling you like, these are the rules, you were born here, which means that you're illegal, which means that you can't do these things. And to me, it's like, that's wrong. Yeah. I know that I'm not illegal.
Right.
I know that what my parents did wasn't wrong. And so then it's like,
you're carrying like these labels for no reason.
I already have all this person that I am of like, I question things, and then like this really disruptive identity is a part of me as well. And so like that heavily influenced me. But again, like I've come to the acceptance now, like this is who I am, and I don't do it to be like rude anymore. I do it in a like respectful manner, where I understand that I'm just like I just want to push the envelope. I just want to push the envelope. I'm not black and white. I'm very like chaotic and creative, and I want to like see where life can change and where we can start new things and where new ideas can sprout. And like, that's just my understanding of me.
But
now.
We need people like you, because you people
like Karen,
of like the Nazi, and then
literally you need everything, honestly. And I was gonna say, and you got to it that like you said, but you were undocumented since you came at 4, but that wasn't really part of your aspect until you got to high school. But at that point, again, like your nature was already that, and then you bring forward this like conflict, and you're like, oh well, I'm gonna fight it back. So again, it was like kind of like there's that nature of like I'm already, and then you put me into a fight, then the environment also puts me into a fight, and it's like what comes from that. Kaylee, I guess you're next in line. What do you think is something about your personality that's just how I am?
I don't know if I'm trying to think of mine, but I'm
like, you both are Tauruses over there, and I think you both can relate.
The Taurus energy.
Kaylee is totally stubborn. And sometimes she does things just because it's in her head that she has to choose what to do. So even if she knows that we're right, when we tell her, like, I'll literally be like, you're going back to school tomorrow and you haven't read. You should, or in 2 days, you should start reading now. Because I know that I left things for last minute and I wish I would have started and maybe like, you know, but she's like, no, I know, I got it. And I'm sure she's probably thinking, yeah, I'd probably be in a better space right now, but I'm not going to do it until I want to do it.
I don't know if you're talking about her or me.
But with, I'm further over and Larry will be the first one to tell you, and my parents too. I'm hard-headed too. We all are. But Kaylee's like a wall. She's like on another level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ándale, respond.
I know for real. You just got called out. Do you think that is the part of your personality?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because especially like recently, since I'm still in high school, there's like sometimes where I'm like talking to teachers and they're like telling I swear it's not bad.
I know what you're gonna say.
No, but it's like I have really good bonds with all the teachers, so I see like they're like goofy sides. So when they're like me quieren regañar, I'm just like,
girl, I know you.
Okay, I'm like, okay, I'll do it when I do it, and I'll fix it on my own. Like, I don't really need you to fix it. I'll fix it, type of thing.
Does that ever bother you?
People telling me?
Do you? No, people telling you, obviously, we know that. But do you ever, like, afterwards think, like damn, why am I like this? Like, I wish I would have taken that consejo.
Well, it's not that I don't take it. It's just, like, what you're saying, like, I have an idea in my head. It's just, like, why did you tell me type of thing. Because I'm, like, I could have figured that out, but I don't need you to tell me that.
Yeah, but we told you and it's a fast track and you decide to take the long way.
No. Relax. Sometimes the long way is fun.
Yeah, the long way is so much better.
Facts.
Because
you meet some friends along the way. You learn some lessons.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying, like, do you ever have moments where you are... Because I know there's things about my personality that I'm like... Man, like, I should have just done that. You know, like, why am I like that? Like, I wish I would have just done this little thing, whatever it is. I'm like, do you ever have those moments, or are you still too much of a teen and too much of a hard
too much of a teen.
I'm still too much of a teen.
Just like,
we're all voting too much.
It's because, like, I'm just stuck in the...
I don't care.
I don't need you for that. Like, I can figure it out. I can do it. And if you tell me, it's just like okay, I heard you, but, like, in one ear, out the other.
But sometimes things stay. Sometimes. For
like,
she's like, no.
Like me.
At a very low
roller
level.
coasters, it goes out.
That must be so hard for parents.
Kylie?
I don't
My
know.
child is a Taurus and I live in fear every day.
I love that for her. I think she's going to have a great... Yeah, seriously. I think she's going to have a great time.
It's so funny because so let's get into horoscopes, I guess. But I'll let you say it and then just like as a little, so I don't forget, in terms of like the Taurus, like two-side dynamic of like they're so hard-headed, but they're also so like... son bien mustias, like love, like this, and my daughter is just like that, and I'm like, what?
What
the heck?
We're just called mustias. That's the first time ever.
I don't even know what that means.
What?
Mustia?
That is honestly
that's
my most favorite word ever. Like, that is top Mexican language ever. Yeah.
So define it.
Okay, mustia is kind of like those people.
It's an offense, obviously. Honestly, like at the end of the day, it's kind of an offense.
It could be a boy or a girl. Mustio, mustia. It's kind of like those people that are like, tienen la cara así muy like, oh, like innocent y tontones or whatever, but they're actually
they're actually not that
evil
innocent.
and like stupid. And
I
like
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 that.
sassy. So whenever I say like, este nomás tiene la cara de mustio,
Like when someone comes around and people... Well, you also do that. I was like, you do that. That's very Gemini, to be like, oh, I'm so sweet, da da da. Like, thank you, nice. And then people leave, and Kiara's like, I wanted them to leave. Like, I was so tired.
But that sounds hypocritical. I'm not hypocritical. I'm just hiding deeper levels than
well,
what
that's
I give
kind
them.
of what it is. Like, it's like you give, like you present like sweet or whatever, and then in reality, like you're dealing with
that
other
shit crazy.
No, I live for that. That's new favorite word.
yeah. You know, it's like
I guess 2025, be a mustia.
Do not be a
Not be a mustia.
Like, we had an event the other day and we met someone new, and the second that they walked in, I was like, esta pinche mustia. Like, literally, they were there like, oh my God.
Oh
and
my
like,
God, you're friends. We love you. Da, da, da.
amazing. And then I'm just like, I know that you're a horrible person underneath all that. Like, I see it. And like,
Yeah.
maybe that's
hilarious.
my personality, that
Actually, yeah, it's
am
true.
very like this. Like, if I meet you and I don't like you, or something's off, and I swear to God that it's my magic, like, I could tell you that you are a shit person, even if you don't know you're a shit person before, like, just meeting you. And I get so stuck in that sometimes. Like, I'm just like, no me muevas, and you can't convince me. And it might take a year, it might take 6 months, or it might take 10 years, but like, I know.
That's funny. I can see
But
that.
it's the stubbornness for me for sure too, because I know that I could get very stubborn in my ways, and like, it's my way or how I want to do it, and like, porque yo dije. And yeah, and it could be kind of a little bit of a downfall, because my mom's not like that at all. I don't know if my dad was, but my mom is very like loving, like, well, you guys know her, she's like open and beautiful, and love her, but not that. I'm just like, a veces te la regaño, I'm like, Mom, like, the biggest thing, let me just say this, the biggest thing, and I don't know if this happens with your parents, but this has been pissing me off lately, where she's like, she wants to say no to something, and maybe I'm just projecting, but like, she wants to say no to something, and I'm like, okay, pues dígale que no, and she's like, no, pero ponle que se me enfermó, and like a backstory, and I'm like, you're allowed to just say no.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Is that a
love
mom
saying
problem?
That's a Mexican mom problem.
Is that a Mexican
I think
mom
it's
problem?
more of a woman problem
Than
in
a man.
general.
Like, yeah.
I think a
Men are
man
much
will be
better at
like,
saying no.
Yeah.
no. A
And that's
man will
it.
just
Yeah.
straight like, no quiero.
They never
But-
even give good excuses.
And yeah, they don't need it. But a woman is
And they don't need
conditioned.
it, yeah.
Conditioned
We need a
to
whole
be that way.
novela backstory about
Yeah.
why I need to
Shoot,
say
the
no
other
right
day,
now.
I'm
Why
literally
not?
typing out, I think it was like, I don't even know, to like the renters or something, and I'm typing it out and like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's because I was on vacation and I went to see my husband, and I'm like,
Who cares?
Never mind, delete. The answer is no.
Yeah, no.
ay,
No,
hija, es que
say
¿qué van a
no.
decir? I'm like, I don't
Who
give
cares? Yeah.
That's my mom. That's my
Yeah.
mom. Whenever
So-
she makes me send emails to the school, she'll be like,
Dude.
y dile que esto y esto y esto. I'm like, no, nomás no voy a estar ahí.
Oh,
Es
bye.
todo.
I got it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's complicated. But actually, nature, nurture, and the reason that I personally do believe in like zodiac signs to an extent is for two things. One, because I think that it's in too many cultures and it's aligned to the stars and all that. And I really do think that energy drives a lot of who we are and what we do.
For sure.
And so obviously we're not like copy paste everybody born in January from whatever date to whatever date is all like the exact same type of Capricorn, because obviously there's nurture injected into it. But it is interesting, like, how that part also feels like an aspect of it is nature. Like I was saying, like you both are Tauruses and like you both are very hard-headed, and that is something that is stereotypical of Tauruses, and I already see it in my daughter, and she's a 1.5-year-old, and it's like I did not influence her. I
Right.
did not teach her that. That's just who she is.
Like, where is that coming? Yeah, and I think if you, si te pones a pensar, like, what the groups of people, like all the Tauruses that you know, all the Capricorns that you know, all the Scorpios that you know, all the Geminis, y'all bitches are crazy.
What? I'm a Gemini.
Están locas. But it is funny to see the differences and how they all kind of like the similarities.
Yeah.
Más bien. I had a question for you guys. How do you feel being tias?
I love
Like,
it.
how has that changed you as a person? Has it? How has that changed your relationship, even with like your parents or con Karen, más bien? I'm really curious about that because I've seen it, but I'm wondering if you guys have noticed it.
I think I could say that since I've always seen you kind of like a mom role. I always waited for like when she has a kid, she'll focus more of her mom energy on her kid, and then we can have more of a sister energy over here.
You
So
thought.
then you thought no. So then I did kind of.
I can balance 2 children.
Little did you know.
No, so then when Ileana came, that's literally what happens. It's just like she was focused on the baby, and then I would focus on the baby too. And she's just like, she's just good vibes.
Who's good vibes? Karen or the baby?
Definitely the baby.
But I was gonna say that Kaylee's also the favorite tia. Like the baby goes to Kaylee.
She's sweet
since she was born. And even when they fight, like she
All I
wants
do is
to be
fight.
there with her. Like it's cute. But for me, I was really happy that Karen was pregnant from the moment she told us, and I think we were all like waiting for a baby to come, and they weren't looking at me, they were looking at Karen.
At this point they were like team pregnancy.
I know, for real. But so I was just really happy for my sister, and I do think it helped me see her in a different perspective where, again, to the point that like me and Karen are so different, even when we've tried to have a relationship. It's like we love each other and respect each other as sisters, but we're definitely not like friends, you know, like we have different interests and we have different thoughts and the way we live our lives. And this, having the baby, is something that really brings all of us together.
It's a common ground.
Like with me and Karen, it's like I respect her so much more, and like the influence that she has because she has this baby, and like I just want to help her out. However, you know, like my role is more of like a support. Like, what do you need from me? I'll be there for you.
Extend that over here? Fuck, look at me, so falta mí.
Which I have to say, like yesterday, I was in this like healing space. A friend of mine is a healer, and she was hosting like this gathering space, and they started talking about motherhood and how difficult it was for them because they felt very isolated. And I want to ask you guys about it, but they talked about how like in America, and I say American society because I labeled that for them, but they were saying like in society, you kind of feel like cast aside when you're a mom, and you have like, you're kind of alone and going through all of this, and it can be depressing, but it's also like beautiful because you just want to spend all this time with this baby, and you're kind of like, fuck everybody else. I got this kind of mentality, and I told her, well, I wanted to ask my sister to see like what she felt, but like through my perspective, it felt like it brought like the village together, like it brought our family together, where like we're supporting her, we want to be there. And that's such like a Mexican thing, I feel, where like the grandparents are doing and taking it on, the sisters are like, what do you need from us? Like Larry in his own way is managing fatherhood to the best of his abilities, but that was what I saw, and I'm like wondering what you guys felt.
I definitely think that your culture does have a lot to do with it, and I've actually been wanting to talk to you about this because I've seen on TikTok a lot of people that are like, you know, the constant like, oh, I don't want to have a kid, like like having children is not for me, and blah blah blah, and like what would make me want to have a kid. And I definitely say like it is not for everyone to be a mother. Like I don't believe that. I don't think that just because you're a woman you have to have kids. Absolutely not. And the biggest thing for me now having Vicente is like, if you don't have a village and you're not mentally prepared to take something like that on, I don't suggest that. Like either you go through some soul searching or something, or build or start brick by brick, because it is I can't imagine. And I don't even have like you know a whole bunch of sisters and like everyone coming over and helping and stuff, but my mom is a huge help. Dimas, you know, my brother, like as much as a man can be. You know?
They are not the same.
But like I at least know, you know, that I could call him and like talk to him about stuff, which is also part of it. But if you don't have a village, it is so much more isolating and so much harder, because it's scary. It's a whole journey. You're going through all these things, like sientes que se te está cayendo el mundo encima. Like it's a lot, especially in those first like newborn stage. It's so heavy. And yeah, if you don't have a village, but I do think that that's an American thing, because they're not.
I was gonna say, I mean, it goes back going in our topic, if it's right in our topic, that culture is a huge influencer too.
Huge.
But even then, we've talked about this in another episode where yes, like there's that like Mexican aspect of like family and what it means to us, right? Like, and how we approach family. But then there's also like a family by family situation. I was listening to another podcast. If anyone out there listens to Envinadas, I was listening to a clip from them, which is like these Mexican actresses, like like during the pandemic started their own podcast at home, and so it's like 3 girls and they talk about like everything that they've been through, whatever. And this girl was sharing about a time when her parents divorced. They couldn't keep up like 2 households, so they moved in with the grandma, and she was talking about how she became independent, like moving out to living on her own was not something that she dreamed of and was her choice, but she actually had to do it because she only lasted 3 months at her grandmother's house with her mom, because when they moved in, she's like, my grandma never made me feel like it was my home. She always made me feel like you're a guest here. So if you were anything you're doing in the kitchen, make sure it looks like you were never there. Clean it up. You brought a dog. Like, I don't have dogs, so like I better not be able to tell the dog's not allowed in the house. It has to stay outside. And she's like, which again is very common in Mexican culture, but she was like, I had just gotten this puppy, and to me that was my child, and my parents understood it. But then we were in my grandma's, and this morning as I was getting ready, I was like, thank the Lord for the grandparents that I have. Like, I could never imagine my grandmother making me feel like her home is not my home.
Oh, that's so sad.
Which is partly Mexican, but also this was a Mexican girl saying that story. Yeah. And I was going back to like, I know so many parents that like, and I don't understand, and even less now that I'm a mom, that will be like, no, pues que se chinguen ellos querían hijos, que ella lo cuide, yo también cuidé a mis hijos. Like, I'm like,
ACI.
Like, thank the Lord, mom, shout out, muchas gracias por toda tu ayuda. But I'm like, same thing is like some cultural and some also just like family dynamics. Mm-hmm. Where I'm just like you were saying, like, interesting, because I do think that has a lot to do with their family, but also their personality.
Yeah.
Because I do agree, like, it's just a space that you have to push yourself into once you become a mom, of like being like, how do I own this new aspect of me? Yeah. Right? And like stand up for it, because it's not easy, which is easier now. I mean, even like going back to work, there's nursing rooms, there's all these things that like 10 years ago, I don't remember seeing a nursing room like dedicated, even at the airports. Yeah. I'm like, I know I was young, but I was very vigilant. I don't think that was a thing. Like them being literally accessible everywhere, like family rooms and all of that stuff, right? Like, it's changing. But I also think like the loneliness comes from the lack of conversation and women feeling like they're the only ones that are going through it. And it comes from an aspect of shame. That motherhood is pictured as it's supposed to be natural. You're supposed to know what to do, and it's supposed to be easy because that's what you were born
to do.
Yeah, like you're supposed to be a mom. So why are you crying? Why are you struggling? Why can't you handle your baby?
Dude, why do you
think then women are not willing to ask for help, which I was like,
me vale madre.
Like, I'm tired. Mom, come help me clean. Like, us.
Yeah, this is why I always, it was like, for me, was a blessing to have gotten get pregnant at the same time for me, because I'm like, I have a built-in person who's already my person, who's just gonna go through the exact same thing with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and for the people that are not like Karen, where they're like, fuck this, like, I don't care about the shame, I'm gonna talk about it, and I'm gonna talk about, and I have a best friend to go through it with. Like, this, what you guys are creating is so special, because it is two like beautiful mothers who are here talking about their experiences, and some of them feeling like quote unquote shameful or like stigmatized topics that people don't want to touch, and you guys are here presenting it in a conversation and like bringing light to something that's been dark, and it shouldn't be lonely to be a mother. It
shouldn't. No, it shouldn't. It should be like celebrated.
And mothers, and that was what we were talking about yesterday too, was like, back in the day, like historically, mothers were revered as this like almost goddess, because you are creating life, right? And you are like, if you think about the purpose of existence as a human being, we're meant to create life in order to fucking live. Like we need to reproduce. And so who does that? Like, yes, men have their stake in it, but a woman is carrying a baby for 9 months and then like taking it on. And so back then it was seen as something that was amazing and beautiful, and like, how do we like bow down to these goddesses? And then now it's been really taken away and stripped away.
I think that part of that is coming from these like far left, far right, where it's like the people who don't want to have kids are like, no, kids are disgusting, and you know, those like really like people who actually hate kids, and then the other side of the moms who are like, no, like you're a woman, you have to do it natural, and like
all these things.
So I feel like como que the gap is too big, where it's like, and now it's being like, no, well, children are gross and I don't want them at the restaurant and they're loud and blah blah blah. And I think that we're like, as a society, we're kind of like focusing on that side a lot, like on the far left or far right, where it should be more of the middle, where it's like, if you want to be a mom, be a mom.
Yeah,
if you want to get a C-section, get a C-section. Like, if you don't want to breastfeed, don't breastfeed. Just like make sure your kid is having the nutrients that they need. Like, we need to be a little more open to how everyone wants to tackle motherhood, if they want to tackle motherhood.
Dang,
you know what I mean?
That's your clip right there.
Instead of being like, no, you're not a woman because you don't want to have kids, y ahí se acabó.
And
like,
I agree,
it's
and
not like that.
I think that's amazing what you just said. And y'all are older, and I'm like 27. I mean, not much older. We're like similar age.
I'm 21. I don't know what you're
yeah.
But I'm
like
27.
1 year, because we're 28.
And what you're saying resonates with me, because me, like, the school I went to was really college focused, and so the conversations at my school that we had was really like, oh my god, if you get pregnant, it is the death of you.
Right.
Like, you cannot go to college, you can't do all these achievements,
Your world
you're
is gonna
not gonna be
crash.
successful. Like, being a teen mom is the worst thing that can happen. And then I wonder, like, you're younger, and it's like, what is the conversation that's being had at schools now about
Is teen pregnancy
and
still a thing?
motherhood?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
really?
Oh yeah, there's still a thing. No, I think right now it's just like, especially at my school, where like they always have their like sex ed talks, and it's just like, and then they also now, especially now, they have a lot of like drug talks. So it's like the combination of like, we know it's so easy to get into these things, so like you need to like actually think about the consequences. It's more like that, especially because it'll be like, okay, you get into it now, what's your plan after that? You got to think about where you're gonna go with.
So it's not necessarily like, don't have sex. It's like, you guys, if you do this, this is what can happen.
It's more like we know you're gonna do it, but just figure it out. Like, think about what you're actually gonna do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not
That-
figure
I mean,
it
that
out,
sounds-
but plan
Yeah.
for it. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, again, going back to, maybe this is my very conservative way of looking at things, but I think like there's many layers to it. But I do think it is, one, even just in our educational system, it is a right for every children to go to school and at least have a high school education, right? And like, that is something that your parents are supposed to support you through. Like, as someone that works in education, right? Like, that's neglect if you don't enroll your children and they're under 18. Like, that's a right that we all have. And I do believe, again, like, after that, you can do whatever you want with your life. I do think that heavily influences our society, right? Like, for people to be educated, like, whether you learn the algebra or not, it's more of like the knowing, you know, waking up early, like keeping up with those standards, like respecting other people, being able to have conversations with people with different viewpoints, like relating to older people from different cultures, like whatever. And so at the end of the day, it's still like, I don't think it's like necessarily the end of the world. It's horrible, right? To like be a teen and have a child, especially I would say like be someone in high school and get pregnant. But point blank, I'm sorry, I don't think anyone in high school is ready to have a child.
No.
Yeah.
Are you gonna manage, and is it gonna probably
you're gonna
work
do what you
out,
gotta
especially
do,
if you have a supportive family? Great, like you're gonna figure it out, like you said, right? But is anyone at that age actually prepared?
No.
Rarely. I don't think so. I think it'd be really hard, like mentally stable. Like, most people live with their parents. If you can't self-sustain, why are you having a child?
Dude, we're not prepared for children, and we are 30.
We're pushing through it. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the reality is, like, that's our life now.
What?
It's Larry's argument. Larry was talking to us, and when we were in the kitchen, he's like, 20-year-olds having kids, like, that's still really early. Like, you're still a kid.
And I do think that that's also, again, like a point now in our society, right? Like, back then, our grandmothers were getting married at 15, 16 and having children, but their life was just to be at home. Their husband would go and, like, you know, work and then bring the money and they eat. And, like, that's kind of life. Like, there's no this other... We live in a different society where that's not realistic.
It's not. It's definitely not.
There's a lot
in
more,
capitalism.
and thank God it's
these
not.
gas prices.
And as a woman, I would like to say thank you.
Thank you very much, because
Like, have you guys seen that? I think it's like a meme of like, if you could pick any decade to be born in, blah blah blah, and a girl's like, girl, I'm in the right spot. I love telling men to shut the fuck up.
I
And not
couldn't
being
do
called
that
the
2
witch
years
or
ago.
Facts.
Real.
I know.
No. Yeah. I think like my only other point that came from the conversation, like you were saying, I agree with everything that you said. I think the people that agree with what you said about motherhood and you being able to have the choice, but that are not confident in not following the norm, are the people that struggle, or I should say specifically the women that struggle and that feel left out and like they don't fit in, because they have a hard time saying, like, I see it all the time on social media and through other people, like, I don't want to breastfeed.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have the confidence to say, like, which to me is like, who the hell cares? But there's women that feel so much shame in saying that, and so they live it
because
alone, or they try to hide it. Like, they don't want
because-
anyone to ask them, like, how are you feeding your child? Because I don't want to say this thing that's
because
wrong.
they know that freaking Stacy from Oklahoma is
gonna have an
gonna tell
opinion.
them that like you are
Yeah.
not a mother,
Yeah.
because you're not
doing a natural
putting
way.
like
Yeah.
It's just too much
That's
stuff.
something
insane.
that's like in motherhood, but also like a universal thing in many aspects. Like what
Yeah.
you were saying about shame and like feeling alone reminded me of like that was one of the biggest things of me being undocumented and feeling a lot of rage, was like I feel like I'm going through this alone because my sisters were both born here and my
Right.
parents are undocumented, but they didn't have to manage like growing up in America
Right.
the way I was,
and like going to school and
it-
trying to get
yeah.
jobs and blah blah blah.
And it's like a status that felt like if I talk about it, I'm in trouble and I can get deported and all these, and like the rabbit hole goes on and like the anxiety is there. And so like that resonates with me. And I feel like at the end of the day, like my takeaway from it is, as long as you're being respectful and as long as you're doing things with good intentions, like be whoever you want to be and fuck what everyone else has to say about that. And you can find support in community and you can ask for what you need and you can have like moments where you're even questioning yourself, but like be who you want to be and be happy with that. And like that was my understanding. Like I'm not Karen. And at some point I feel like I'm trying to be Karen. I'm trying to like be who my parents want me to be as a kid. I like think about like the mother that I want to be, and it's like, do I have to do the thing that Karen did? Do I have to do that thing that Ada did? And it's like, no, fuck that. Like, what is it that I want? And like my gut and my personality and my understanding and the way that I've walked life, like that's going to give me more guidance than me having to talk to somebody else.
And also
about it.
age, because I could tell you that you thinking about that right now, y en otros 5 años when you're in your 30s or whatever, that confidence honestly does also come with age, where you're just like hit a certain point and you're like, I don't
That
give a
was my
fuck what the
question.
22-year-old
That was my
has
question.
to-
Like, where does that come from? But and at the end of the day, that is why we created the iMommy spaces, where like we have all these things that like, yes, we might every now and then find someone on TikTok or on YouTube kind of talking about the problem that we have, but it's still not openly discussed.
No.
But I do think there is that confidence that I always wonder. And I think people can build confidence through seeing other people be like, fuck it, I don't care. Right.
Yeah.
And like, that's why they're like, I'm not willing to do it. But if you say it, I'm going to applaud you. And
Right.
then like we grow
And then I can-
that
A little
like
bit,
normalcy, right? Like what you said, you're willing to like step up and be the first one that gets stones thrown at her.
Yeah.
Like, cool, I'll come with you, but I'm not going to be the first one to do it. And at the end of the day, it does come from that. But I was wondering, like, how do you build that? I do think it's with time, but I'm like, time and what else? Because I've always felt that way. I've never felt like I have to do, this is just who I am. I've never felt I have to do things a certain way.
Yeah.
Like, it's still me. Like, I don't care what you think. Like, my choices are always my choices. I don't care what someone else thinks.
I think
Even my
that's definitely
parents.
just your personality though,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well,
But I
and-
think most of us reach a point where you get to like, and then I think that's why like old people are so sometimes like it's like, I don't give a fuck. Like I am who I
Like,
am.
after some
Do you
Is
time-
it
guys
only
remember
age?
Lola?
Is there another magic thing that you can do to speed up the age?
Girl,
The confidence
Lola
in
hit
what you
70 and
want.
it was game over. I was like, oh shit, we're all okay.
Anything y'all think I'm supposed to do, I don't.
Me vale.
Well, and that's why I say about doing the right thing, because I feel like I've always been like that. Like and my mom will quote me all the time and say like, yo sé que tú vas a hacer lo que te dé la gana y
Her
siempre has
tattoos.
sido así. Like you're always gonna do whatever you want. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. But at some point in my life, I didn't feel confident because I knew I wasn't doing the thing that was right for me. And it was like, I'm not living in my purpose and I'm not living in my intention. And I feel like the worst person ever because of it. And when I was able to like realign with my purpose and accept all of these things that I've done right, wrong, everything, and feel good about it, then I was like, okay, now
we're good.
really fuck you guys. Like, and respectfully. But yeah, like Kaylee, I even see that in her though. Like again, and I wonder all the time, I'm like, is it because you had like older sisters and you get to see us and like monkey see, monkey do? you like saw this in us and it kind of like inspired you. But like she's 16 and I'm telling you, like even right now, I'm like, it blows my mind because to me, she's so mature and we have this really good sibling relationship. Even though I'm 27 and she's 16, because she's so wise and mature and I go to her for advice. And like, I'm a bit immature, but also like, she's
What
a
you're
really
saying
wise
is that I
kid.
did a good job parenting.
Yeah.
But I think like at the end of the day, the moral that came out of this is like, I do think we all need to be more confident in ourselves. Like just as a society, I think like a lot of people lack confidence in like commitment to who they are. And I think that's something that always comes up, right? Like as this inspirational advertisement or like whatever, like be you,
Believe in
be bold,
yourself.
like be authentic.
Yeah.
But actually people do need to do that like in any aspect. And I that has always been my belief. At the end of the day, if you don't have malintent, if you're not hurting anyone else, like choose you, like do you. We've talked to about, and I see it sometimes in like friends that I have that feel called out, like when someone says something about how they're raising their children. I'm like, I think one of the things that always brings or comes up for me is if you feel hurt by what someone is saying about how you do things, you should question whether you're being true to yourself or not. Because when I choose something for my daughter, like let's say I am going to go on a trip and I leave my child with my mom. I know that she's going to be in the best hands with my mom.
Right.
I don't
Better hands than
care
Karen's.
who says like, oh my God, you left your child for a whole
Girl.
And they do?
legitimately
Girl.
do not care. But
Don't
I
get me
have people
started.
that are like, oh my God, did I do that? I'm like, be confident in it. Like,
my favorite.
Is that your, like, did you make the right choice? Yes or not? And if you did, and if that's the best thing for you, do it. Who cares what anyone else thinks?
No, but
is
then
your
it's
child in danger? No.
I could never. I
Yeah,
could never
that's
do that.
what
And
I'm
it's
saying.
like, well, that's great, but I can.
But I
So-
can. So, bye. So
Bye.
Cancun, here we come.
La
And
que
then-
puede y la que no critica.
And then that reminds me of like, yes, be confident and surround yourself by a good support system. Because when I hear something like that for Karen too, I'm with her on that boat of like, fuck that, who cares? That's my sister. She wants to travel. Like,
She
where do
wants
I
to
sign
go to
up to
Miami. I'm-
babysit? También, like to babysit or to go to the trip with her. Like, I don't care either way. Like, I'm not judging her and I'm supporting her, and that's me as a sister. And I know Ade feels the same way as a friend. And so it's like, yeah, be confident and surround yourself in the space that's gonna feed you. If you're just
for sure.
surrounded by like snakes, whether that's your family or your friends, like
Yeah.
block them.
Yeah, and I think that's where I've seen it
I
with people
mean-
that I know that are always like having so much guilt, and I'm like, that's not even coming from you. Like, you're not doing anything bad. Your
Right.
child is in good hands. Like,
Everyone
they're fine.
always has
The
opinions.
reason you
Yeah.
feel guilt is
Eso.
because of other people's opinion.
Yeah.
Like, F that.
At the end of the day, nature or nurture, you are who you are. Fucking be confident in that. And like,
Yeah.
If you're a shitty
travel
person-
girly, you're a travel.
and if you're a shitty person, maybe like look into that, do some self-reflecting like Yara.
No, that ass. camper and
But
everything.
para eso son los consejos, right? Like you do also have to, I think that's also why it's important to have people around you and have conversation. Sometimes that's all you need. You just need to like double think. It's like me being like, me pongo el vestido azul o el vestido verde.
She already knows.
And I already know I want the green one. I just need like a second opinion to see how sure I am that I want the green one, you know? But it is the same thing. Like, I think my approach with them as a sister is like, I'm always going to tell you what I think. At the end of the day, I'm not going to tell you in terms of like what to do, or I'm going to be like, oh my God, I'm mad because Kaylee didn't do what I told her. No, I'm like, I'm seeing a right and wrong. It's your life. You're going to make your choice at the end. But I would be remiss if I don't tell you what I see is going to hinder you.
And as a younger sister, having an open mind to that, because sometimes you feel like when you're being guided, you're like, oh, she's telling me what to do. Even if you don't mean to do that, it's like, oh, I don't want to hear it from her. But like, if you come from it with an open mind as a younger sister, like in this dynamic, then I can see where you're coming from, and I can have more of an understanding and like put myself, like instead of me getting in the way of myself, I can listen to you and be and read the book that I need to read before class, because it's like she's not just saying it to be a bitch. She's
read the book, bro. I read the book.
Mind your business. She has an
you.
A+ in that class.
I told Karen you read it.
I told this is a true story. Oh my God. These are all based on non-true events, obviously. Well, thank you guys for coming. I know we were a little bit all over the place, like usual. Whatever.
It's a casual
That was the
conversation.
most organized conversation I've had with you.
That's saying something.
But yeah, seriously, I don't know. I love you guys. I know that we, you know, Karen and I came into your guys' life not that long ago, but it's crazy seeing, especially you from like a little baby, like cuando estaba bien chiquita, because how I met you when you were 15. It was your quinceañera when we first hung out.
Oh, shit.
So she was 4.
So she was a baby, and now she's like this grown woman, and I'm like, what is happening? And I just love going over there and loving on you guys, and I see you guys as close family as well. So
You're the honorary fourth sister.
I will. But yeah, I think that's today's episode.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So. Seems like a good wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.